Okay, we're good to start, Madam Chair, whenever you are.
Okay, great. Then I will call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock, right on time. Morning, everybody. I will read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hadiwandawung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Moving on to adoption of the agenda, then, can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor O'Hare has moved. Tom has seconded. All in favor? I call the question. All in favor? All right. Anyone opposed? No? Then that is carried. Correspondence. This is a special meeting for just one item, but there is a very important thing that we have to address because we have two new members. And I'd like to welcome Dave Tufford and Mary De Keyser to the Heritage Committee. Some of them know them already. Some of you know them already, like Tom and Tim and myself. However, Wynne, you haven't met them before. Wynne is our vice chair. And here's also another new member this year, Ricardo Socio. Hi, Ricardo. Ricardo, these are two new members we're welcoming to the committee today, Mary and Dave. Mary and Dave actually own the last house we managed to designate before COVID hit. The designation ceremony took place during COVID after the worst shutdowns, close downs were over. And we're very happy to welcome you to the committee. I know you're very passionate about heritage, about Port Robinson, about your own house. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now,
Madam Chair. Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you might want to introduce Nick and Justin as well. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Justin is our staff rep here at the city from the city clerk's office. He runs all the communications things to make sure that we can all hear each other. And he also does all the communications and correspondence with us during the month to make sure that we all are up to speed with our meetings and everything. And Nick is our planning representative. He is a heritage planner and based in Kitchener or Waterloo?
Kitchener, yes.
Yeah. And he's helping us out with advice and guidance throughout our projects.
Welcome, Mary and Dave, to the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. All right, we only have one other point of business today. This is a special meeting, not one of our regular monthly ones. And this concerns a motion that will be brought to Council next Tuesday about a proposed Indigenous presence at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. The committee has talked about an oversight in the representation of the role that Indigenous peoples played in the Battle of Beaver Dams over 200 years ago. There's only a very cursory reference to this on the battlefield cairn in the park, and we have discussed a few times that this should be remedied, that the people who actually won this battle for the British were Indigenous people, and that should be acknowledged. That has been talked about in the committee a few times, and we have already agreed that that should be brought to Council to be remedied. However, a couple of days after our last monthly meeting, I met activist and artist Elise Burnett at an event at the Unity Garden in the Lake Gibson Mel Swart Conservation Area. And we talked about this particular issue briefly, and she then brought up the fact that more than just a plaque about the Battle of Beaver Dams is needed in our city park. And I totally, wholeheartedly agree with her. She says there needs to be an Indigenous presence in our park here in the city. If you read the statement that I submitted to Justin, I've since then tweaked that a little bit language-wise, and also some of the arguments in it. The information is the same though. Then you know what this is about. Indigenous culture is not just about battles fought and won for the British. In fact, Indigenous culture is not at all about this. There's heritage and culture here that should be represented in the center of the city and not just along the DQ Beaver Dams corridor, where we have the beautiful Peace Monument by Cardinal and also the Unity Garden. But we need a presence in the city center where our social and commercial life is centered. And Michelle has suggested to get together with me to talk about what will be done, and also with Sarah, our historian. I should mention, though, that this project will be entirely the Indigenous arts communities, not the heritage committees. We are just giving our support and our assistance in any way we can. So before this is going before council, since we are a city committee and since this is a project that will involve city land, I'm bringing this into to the committee today to vote on this, to make sure that you're all in favor of this, to bring this to council. So I'd like to, can I have somebody to move, oh, here we have it up on the screen.
Madam Chair, there's the proposed motion. Obviously, you can change this if the committee wishes. Yeah, we can start with this if you like.
This is just an idea at the moment. No planning for this has started, but we would like the city's endorsement to get started on this. So can I have comments from the committee? Yes, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question through you to Justin. Justin, do we want to have on the motion that specifically says designed, created by the Indigenous people here in Thorold?
Yeah, through the chair, we can definitely add that for sure. Just give me a moment here. So to be created by
the Indigenous community or Indigenous arts community.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I think we also have to change something to commemorate the Indigenous people's role in the Battle of Beaver Dams. It's not just about that. This is supposed to be also a representation of Indigenous culture and heritage, not just connected to colonial forces, but in itself.
Sorry, I was trying to organize it.
Let me just read this.
Sure.
Motion that council endorsed the idea to add interpretive displays at the Beaver Dams Park to be created by the Indigenous arts community as a manifestation of Indigenous culture and heritage. Why don't we say it like that?
As a manifestation of
Indigenous culture and heritage.
Hold on. Okay, 1 second.
And I don't think we have to actually specify the Battle of Beaver Dams at this point.
To commemorate the okay. So motion to park to be created by Indigenous community, Indigenous culture and heritage. Interpreted plays. Okay.
I mean, yes, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the committee, should we also add something about where the monies are coming from? Because if this gets read at council, that'll be the first question. How much is this going to cost? So if we already...
Well, that is what the statement that I put together is about. I have contacted Matthew and asked him who should present that, whether it would be you as our council rep or whether I would be present at the council meeting as the chair of the committee. It doesn't matter to me who does it, but that would have in it that the first avenues to be explored would be sponsorships and grants at the local, provincial, federal, and special interest levels. So fundraising for this will be one of the first steps, obviously, but that will all be discussed with the Indigenous community as well. So we're not asking council for money right now. If they want to give like funds to this project at a later date, that can be discussed then. I don't know whether it will be necessary and whether there will be enough other sponsors. For now, we just want to get this underway and make sure that it happens. Yes, Justin?
Yeah. Through you to the committee, the plan is to put this into a memo with your attachment, and you can send me an updated version with that, which outlines more detail about this proposal, and it will likely be an item of consent for the next meeting of council.
Great, awesome. Any other comments? Do I see any hands? Oh, yes, Nick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of minor comments. We should capitalize Indigenous in both spots.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that arts community needs to be capitalized.
Yeah, exactly.
And we should probably mention Indigenous nations art community. Just there's likely more than one nation that would be involved, I would presume.
Yeah.
And I was also going to mention for your memo too, you should mention consultation with other nations built into.
Yeah, well, as I said already, we are not going to be the ones who chair or spearhead this.
Right.
I don't know whether you know Michelle Elise. She's a Métis activist and artist and curator. And she does a lot of work here in Thorold, and she would probably be the one who would be heading this. And she would probably be the one who would approach individual artists or whatever. I'm not at all at this time informed about what her vision is. We are completely open to what she thinks. It's not our business to decide this. We would just like to open up the door for her and the Indigenous community to make this happen, because we really think this is something that is missing in our park. The Battle of Beaver Dams Park commemorates a battle which was won by Indigenous peoples. It also is packed with heritage artifacts and plaques that commemorate other parts of Thorold history and Canadian history. There is nothing to give a presence to the indigenous peoples on whose land we live. So it is something that needs to be remedied. And that's what this is about. It's basically just to get this started. Any comments? Tom?
Thank you. The interpretive display, was there any thought in terms of it being focused on a certain time period? Or is that something that will be discussed as the project is developed?
This was not discussed yet. As I said, this is in the very early stages. We are probably talking a contemporary artist creating something that would be a permanent display in the park. But as I said, this is very early days. And basically what this is about is to create a presence of indigenous peoples in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. And the best way to do that is to do that through art. We don't know yet whether it will be sculpture, whether it will be mural, whether it will be something else. We haven't discussed that yet. But I also felt if Michelle Elise is asking for a meeting with me as the Heritage Chair, then we should approve that something like this is talked about before we go ahead and do it.
Thank you.
We also have to think about that heritage is not only about historic artifacts, it's also about art that is created now and will be heritage as soon as it stands there. So culture in itself is heritage. And the indigenous culture's presence is woefully absent in the city center, and we should change that. Yes, Councillor?
If there are no, excuse me, Madam Chair, if there are no more comments or questions, maybe you could put to the committee one more time, then I would endorse this motion to be voted on by the committee.
Yeah, can I have somebody to second that? Thomas second it. And are you guys all in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? No? Then that is carried. So our council rep will bring this motion to council, hopefully next Tuesday. I should also mention here that a couple of days later is the National Trust for Canada conference in Ottawa, and our historian Sarah King-Head will be talking about the Battle of Beaver Dams Park at that particular conference. So, whatever there is to be said about the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, she will mention. And so any other things up for discussion? No? In that case, then, yes?
Madam Chair, Welland Avenue.
Oh, yes. Just a very brief comment. I told you at the last monthly meeting that I had verbal consent from the owners of 82 Welland Street North to designate their house and the old oak tree on their property. I do now have formal consent and a signature. That house is our next project, and Sarah, once she's back from Britain, she's coming today. And as soon as that conference in Ottawa is behind her, we'll start research on that property. Yes, Justin?
And if we can just bring that up at our next regular meeting, since
Absolutely.
that's not on our agenda.
Yeah. I just thought it's good news. I'll share that with everybody. But it will come up at our next meeting. Okay. Then our next meeting will be held on October 31st at 10 a.m. It's a hybrid meeting again. And if there is no more business, then this meeting is adjourned at 10:19. Thank you very much, everybody.